Bob, you spent several years as chairman and CEO of Wyeth, yet much of your early career was in marketing. Could you sketch that out for us?
Sure, Noel. I was for the last many years the CEO of Wyeth, but virtually all my career has been involved with marketing, and I started my first job in the pharmaceutical industry, actually was a marketing research analyst. So for the last 30 some years, I've either been directly involved with marketing, which was many of those years, or certainly responsible for a very large marketing organization. Wyeth, up until recently, when they've cut back a bit, has had 13 to 15,000 sales representatives across the world.
What are the major changes that you've seen in marketing in the pharmaceutical industry in the last 25 to 30 years?
Well, I'd say if you compare pharmaceutical marketing today to what I saw when I arrived at my first job in the mid-1970s, the two fields are almost unrecognizable. Marketing when I joined in the 70s was really a mixture of sales promotion and journal advertising, and not a lot else. Today, frankly, the basic job of a marketing department in a drug company, if it's going to be effective, is to build a marketing platform for a drug into the clinical development process, so that as you're developing the drug based on how you study it, what you compare it to, what patients you use it in, unless you build that marketing platform into those development studies, unless you create the database and the regulatory label, the information about the product that you can use as the basis for your marketing, then you really have no chance to do effective promotion. So it's changed almost completely in the time that I've been engaged with it.
Have there been any other changes in addition to the change in the R&D relationship?
Well, I think one big change has been globalization, and I think that change is tied to the first one. If you're going to do a major development process today, and that development can cost up to $1 billion or even more, and frequently takes 6-7 years to complete, you've got to do that on a global basis in order for it to be at all effective. You got to do a program that will be acceptable in the United States, in Europe, and in parts of Asia today, especially Japan. And so if you're going to do a global development, you've really got to have a global marketing platform, because it is the clinical development that ultimately establishes how you can position your product and how you can sell it. So today, a marketer has to be not only familiar with the US environment, but they have to be familiar with the environment around the world. And in some categories, the medicine is largely the same, and the drugs are, fit into the healthcare system in a similar way. But in other categories, there's a real challenge, I think, to find a platform for a drug, a positioning, and a development strategy that allows it to be acceptable in all parts of the world.
Wyeth and many other pharmaceutical companies have R&D departments with long and very proud histories and successful histories. How have these organizations responded to this sort of change of inserting marketing?
Well, it's a big challenge, and one of the big issues is the difference in background, training, orientation between the people involved in the medical development of a drug, and the people typically involved in preparing the marketing strategy. And to explain what I mean, typically someone in charge of developing a major new drug for a company is extremely experienced in their field. They're typically a specialist in a particular type of medicine. They've worked in that field their entire career. They're well known in it, they're dedicated to it, they're probably an international expert in what they're doing. Whereas typically the marketing person who would be assigned to develop the marketing strategy along with them typically didn't have that kind of background, didn't have that kind of long-term commitment. So one of the challenges, I think, for companies has been to match in skill, experience, and commitment marketing people who really are experts in their field, who can communicate with someone who might be a very well-known worldwide scientist, and to assign them a marketing person with that kind of a background, who's someone who really has the credibility to make their opinions about how a drug should be developed. And many times what the marketing of a drug needs is somewhat different in terms of how long it takes, how much it costs, the risks involved in a particular clinical strategy than you would do if you were only trying to develop that drug for registration, to put it on the market with the FDA or some other global authority. So I think one of the big challenges there has been for marketing departments in pharmaceutical companies to assign people this new product marketing task who have that kind of credibility, that kind of experience, when the natural tendency of career paths within companies is for people to want to be involved in existing products with P&Ls, because typically that has been associated with better opportunities for career advancement. So that's one of the things companies are struggling in today, but I think for marketing to be effective in the future, a major thrust of a marketing department has to be the successful development of new drugs.